He was an awesome guy until I got this bio, and I didn't really realize the depth. So, this year, Bill Caulfield has spent over 35 years in the custom electronics industry. He was involved in the introduction of the 8-track cartridge and cassette in the United States in the 60s while working at Ampex. Created the multi-track garage recording studio industry by developing the Tascam line of products for TIAC in the 70s. Was the driving force behind vector research in the early to mid-80s and created the Xantec line of multi-room products in the late 80s and the early 90s. He was born in Colorado and built his first crystal radio set when he was 5 years old. His early interest in radios would later turn into a hobby of collecting and restoring classic antique radios. And Bill's collection, some pieces of which have been featured in museum displays, now numbers over 1,000. While in high school, Bill started his career in consumer electronics working in a TV repair shop in Pueblo. While attending the University of Colorado, he worked in the TV repair shop at House of Music in Boulder, while earning degrees in electrical engineering and marketing. Bill actually did some of the home installations as far back as 1959 that involved hiding audio equipment in closets while pulling speaker wire through the crawl space for some early installations. After graduation, he moved from the repair department to selling hi-fi equipment and sold products that converted the existing monaural equipment into that new system called stereo. He stayed at Boulder for several years because he really enjoyed selling audio equipment until 1965 when he went to work for Ampex. Ampex was in its heyday. They had invented the videotape recorder back in the 50s when Ray Dolby was working for them and had continued to expand their video and audio reel-to-reel business into the consumer area. The Japanese were not yet a factor back in the early 60s, and Ampex was one of the premier brand names known for high-quality tape recording equipment. Ampex was dominant not only in audio and video recording equipment, but they were the leader in producing and distributing pre-recorded audio tape as well. In 1965, Bill took on the position of West Coast Regional Manager in the pre-recorded tape division. He really wanted to get into the hardware division, but there were no openings in that area, and so he saw this as his foot in the door. And as you know, there are not many things that Bill wants that he doesn't figure out some way of getting. So, in 1968, Bill was given the responsibility of product development manager in their newly created consumer division in Elk Grove Village. There, he became involved in the creation of all of Ampex's new products, including working with Philips on their new invention called the cassette. Many of the features still found today on audio cassettes were Bill's ideas. Front load and music search, to name two. The anti-theft packaging system still used today by some manufacturers won Bill a Popeye or a point of purchase award in the late 60s. For many years, there were two holes in the sides of the cassette tapes. If one from the industry were asked what the holes in the sides of these cases for, they could get a wide variety of answers from air pressure release to humidity control to I have no idea. The real reason they were there was because Bill put them there to give the Ampex merchandising system a way to hold on to the cassette shell. Other companies starting to get into the tape business all copied the holes with no clue as to what they were for, figuring that if Ampex had them, they had to be important. So, for a number of years, this went on until somebody finally figured out that there really was no reason for them to be there other than everybody else had them. In 1972, Bell went on to TIAC in Los Angeles, taking the position of product development manager. At the time, TIAC was the largest Japanese manufacturer of reel-to-reel recorders. They were playing around with quad sound, as was everyone during that period. Bill had developed some ideas for other users of this 4-track recording system while at Ampex and developed them into a complete line of equipment at TEAC. The Tascam line was born. He saw a need for low-cost, multi-track recording for musicians who wanted to create music at home. The Tascam line emerged into a multitude of 4-track recording decks and mixers. The first inexpensive multi-track mixer, the Model 2, was cobbled together on his living room floor. Bill was seen stomping around the country like a missionary with a new religion, selling resistive retail store owners on this concept of multi-track. This innovative product, along with some of his other breakthrough products, such as the 3340 4-track recorder, created a whole new world, not only for the home recordist, but opened the doors for other companies such as Docorder, Fostex, and Sony, to name a few. And those of you who have been around know this, like the 3340, I mean, we went crazy for that, and this fixture was this big orange thing and blue thing that we put into our store, and it was cool to see this multi-track stuff. So it was amazing to me to find out that Bill's the guy behind this. So, while at TEAC, Bill had also taken on the responsibilities of Director of Marketing. He was putting together an advertising campaign for the Tascam Model 88. It's an 8-track recorder. One of the features Bill wanted to get across was the heavy construction of the 80-8. The agency he was working for suggested they create a cutaway illustration of the deck for the print ads. After they gave Bill the number of zeros after the dollar sign, he figured it would be more cost-effective to just cut one of these things in two. The result was an incredible unit, and it was photographed and used throughout the campaign. The reps and dealers called it one of the most effective ads they had ever seen. The president of TEAC called it destroying company property. Unable to appreciate the fact that Bill had saved the company thousands of dollars. Fortunately for Bill, he was so much a part of the TEAC and Tascam division that he drew the wrath of the president, but not a pink slip. Bill has always seen new products as an outgrowth of the demand in the field. For example, in the late 70s, fair trade pricing was eliminated, and retail stores were desperately looking for a haven of price stability. Bill and George Dorado, then president of TEAC, formed a new company called Vector Research. Bill was the vice president of sales and marketing. Here the products were created to fill a retailer's need for a protected line of equipment. While at Vector, the product direction was on simple, high-quality audio equipment that the large retail chains could use for price stability. Some of the current members of CEDIA came to know Bill in the early 80s as he went around the country training these regional chain salespeople in the merits of their new protected line. Chains such as Federated, Shack, Hi-Fi Buys in Indianapolis, Tech Hi-Fi, and Custom Electronics in Houston were soon moving the profitable Vector line by the containerful. In 1988, Bill was asked to join VideoLink, a division of Xantech, as Vice President of Sales and Marketing. This young division was struggling with a need for a direction. Some wanted to expand the video processor group of products, and rather than looking at other products, others wanted to expand the IR remote line. In 1988, the line had 2 IR remote products, the Extralink 170, I remember these, I installed lots. The 780 J-Box receiver, installed lots. Bill became aware of a small but growing group of retailers, installers, or whatever they called themselves in those days, who were taking these products and installing them to create multi-room remote control systems. Now he had something he could work with. Over the next few years, there was a flurry of new products coming to the market from Bill, targeted exclusively at this new multi-room channel. Xantech now has over 100 products developed exclusively for this market. The old automotive lighting division of Xantech was sold off, and Bill deleted the VideoLink brand name, concentrating on Xantech for all new products. He took Xantech to the first CEDIA conference and has been here ever since. As the multi-room market has grown and matured, Bill has worked behind the scenes with CEDIA members across the U.S., finding their wants and needs. His sites have now expanded to encompass the emerging markets in other countries to further the expanding horizons of multi-room audio and video, home automation, and home theater. So, if you will please join me now in honoring a true individual, a true innovator, an industry leader, the recipient of the 1996 CEDIA Lifetime Achievement Award, Bill Caulfield.
Lifetime achievement. Am I supposed to retire after this?
Yes, over. Out of here.
This won't break, will it? This is better than the AMX award?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was always worried about the word lifetime because it seems like, is lifetime achievement when you're ready to sort of give up on things, where you're ready to retire? I don't know, because when I think of my lifetime, it's so interwoven with two things, people and products. And when I look back, and I think there's a lot of people in the room that interweave the two things together. You have a product or a company that you work for and the people that are involved in it. And I think I speak for a lot of people that are out there. When we talk about a product or an event or a person, I think of things like Dick Schramm at Parasound. And I can remember back when Dick was at Pacific Stereo back on Haight-Ashbury and back in the 60s and saying, was that a naked lady that walked by that street? Damn, Dick, we got to go out and look. Shit, it was. I remember those days as much as I do the products. I can remember, yes, cobbling together a Model 2 on the living room floor with my wife. I got a story sort of like that with my wife. My wife, I met, she was a Sanyo girl working for Howard Ladd back in 1971. And in those days at CES, with all the little mini skirts and everything else, very impressive. And I was in Boston at the time, pitching something or other for some company, Ampex, I think. And I met a guy by the name of John Waugh at Minuteman Radio. And at Minuteman Radio, he says, where are you from? I said, Chicago. He said, are you single? And I said, at the present time I am. Would you be, I got someone that you might really want to meet. This very hot number, little phone number. And so I said, fine, what's her name? She said, well, her name is Connie Beckway, and she's a Sanyo girl, and I met her, and I said, fine, maybe someday when I get back to Chicago, I'll meet her. So I gave Connie a call, very pissed off. Connie, would you stand up? I met, so again, it's amazing how people and products and companies get all tied together. I finally convinced her that we should get married, and in 1972, on my way back from working at Harman Kardon, I worked at Harman Kardon where you could call him Sidney. I never knew Dr. Harman, I knew Sidney. He probably doesn't remember those days, but on the way back, on the way to TIAC, I met Connie and we went on out. Lifetime achievement, I don't know if it's because I simply outlived everybody else. I went to the 50th anniversary of the CES, and that's because I'd been to 50 CESs, and I went there and they thought that I was maybe an advance guard for my father or something. They didn't know that I got this terrible picture of myself in the closet. Anyway, I went there and I had these people with the canes and they were hacking and spitting, and it was And they said, "Are you in the right place?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm one of the people that did the 50. I was only 3 at the time, but I did go to 50 CESs. This reminds me an awful lot, this group, of the early days at CES, where you had a lot of excitement, a lot of founding people creating the industries, and there was a time when this died. We had the people, the old Freemans and the Sarnoffs, and we had this industry of American inventors and entrepreneurs that created these corporations of the 30s and 40s. And I collect old antique radios, and I think of those days. Then we had an era where it was all dominated by non-Americans. Now I go to shows like this, and I see, again, the excitement of these small entrepreneur American-type companies, because this is an America phenomenon. And again, we are exporting it to the rest of the world. And therefore, I see that type of excitement here, where we can identify with the people and the dealers, and we can remember when people like Tom Doherty were doing little bitty jobs at a little bitty company called Hi-Fi Buys. Or Eric Bodley had this crazy little company called Sound Advice. Audio Advice, Sound Advice, something like that. All they had was a big store that looked like a tuner. Analog tuner. We didn't have digital in those days. His grandfather, I used to know, it was wind-up. We didn't have electricity when I started.
You knew Granddad?
Yep, knew him, wind-up Victrola.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah. So I think the neat thing about this industry is the ability to tie people in with it. And I think that's what we're going to find in the future, is to know these people and to tie them in so that when we look at the 1960, 1970, 1980, 1990, it's probably the people as much as important as the company we work for. And that's how we're going to link it. And I'm going to remember the year 2000 and the people I've met. So this will not break. I guarantee this will not break. I really thank you, and I guess this is going to keep me alive, keep me excited for next year, because that's another thing about this, is that I go to class reunions and I think of people that are thinking of being grandfathers and thinking of retiring, and that's because they're in an industry that's dead. They're not interested in what's going on next year. So I think that my competition, the other people that work with me, the people, my competitors, whether it's somebody like people at Niles or anybody else that will keep us alive and keep us, Ivan, I think Ivan makes me young. Because we're not going to retire, Ivan. We're going to just continue to compete, and that's going to keep us alive. So I want to thank you. Thank you very much for this, and we'll see you next year.
Bill, we've also got something for Connie. Connie, could you come to the stage, please?
Bill, you're a lucky human.
Just a handshake.
Hi, Bill. Connie. Boy, what an honor. Bill, I used to date a 3340. This is a real honor for me.
All right, we'd like to wrap things up here, but we need to first recognize our brand new president. Many